My name's Becky Rogers. I'm one of the producers of This Is England 88, which is coming out soon. We just screened the first episode of BAFTA last night, which went down very well. A lot of it was shot on the Sony F3, so Shane's going to talk to you about that and his use of Sony cameras. Shane.
Sit on this. Okay, now that's good. Right. I'll just take my coat off. Yeah, so we screened the first episode on a cinema screen last night of This Is England 88. So although I'd seen the Sony footage intercut with red footage in the edit suites and in the grade, we never graded on a monitor any bigger than about 27 inches. So although I thought it held up very well, I never really knew quite how it was going to stand up, obviously, until we blew it up. And my expectations were slightly lower because when I got the camera in, I think it was March, it just come out, the S-Log update wasn't available at the time, so we just basically, I was going to use it as a B or a C camera alongside that I could shoot, because as a director I've also operated a lot of my early films, and a film like La Donk and Scorsese, I've been the cameraman. So I didn't want to shoot everything, but I wanted something that for myself, we always shoot with two reds on the last two series, and I thought I'll have this extra camera. And we shot at on the internal codec, the 35 megabits per second, and you know, so my expectations were it'll be okay in you know, in small chunks or whatever, and maybe when the S-Log comes out we could possibly use it as an A camera further down the line. But then when we started handing stuff to the DIT and blowing it up in the van and looking at it, it seemed to be, for that, for basically what the format it was recording to on the XD cam was phenomenal, really. And so last night, weirdly, I watched it all together, and as the shoot went on, the Sony went from being a kind of a B or a C camera to basically being involved in every scene, in every shot, and we had a 3-camera shoot basically. There'd be the odd time, because of handheld, for reasons where you needed a 360 vista, that we didn't have more than one camera, but basically the Sony ended up being used far more than we were all anticipating, and like I say, I watched it last night and it was completely seamless. I mean, to think that the red originated obviously at RAW, and then came down to 2K, and then we watched it on a 2K screen at BAFTA last night, and I swear on my life it was completely seamless, because I'm a bit of a tech head and I read all the forums like a lot of people, and you see these 300% blow-ups and people are going, look at the noise, but when you actually sit and watch something on a cinema screen, it's a completely different experience, and you know, it was incredible, and that was the basic bottom end resolution. And so I'm just about to embark on my next film. Was actually 90% confirmed, maybe 95% confirmed. It's going to be a feature-length documentary with the Stone Roses covering their reunion and kind of leading up to their concert. And now I've seen what the Sony F3 can do and seen it blown up. I've decided I'm going to shoot the entire thing on Sony F3s with S-Log and maybe a Samurai or something at the other end, you know, to get the latitude, because it's going to be solely for the cinema and then into TVs. So it's kind of it's exceeded my expectations, really. And my background, I'd been waiting for a camera like this. I know the 5D came out and I was really excited about the 5D, but because I'd got used to the video camera form and the sort of XLR inputs and this, I know you can get great stuff with those things, but I was always really frustrated, and the massive depth of field that you got with the 5D because of the size of the frame meant focusing was, you know, I couldn't kind of work in the way that I'd always wanted to work. And so it's with the advent of the Panasonic AF101, the new Canon that's coming out, obviously no one's really seen anything from it yet, I think it's at the C300, and with the Sony F3, that there was, when I first started making short films, I remember going to a film festival that was local to me in Nottingham, and saying, I've made a film on video. It was on high 8. I mean, I started with really, really basic, I can't remember the name, it was a Sony VX1000, I think, back in '94. I think it was a VX1000. And this, I got rejected from the film festival, not based on the fact that the film was no good, but just based on the fact that it wasn't on film. And they said, we don't show video here. And I was kind of like, but do you like it? And they went, yeah, it's brilliant. And so I set up my own video film festival in 1994 in Nottingham. And I remember at the time thinking, one day, the expense of film and the kind of cost and the hierarchy that's involved will be available to me and to people like me who are trying to make films. And I sort of imagined about 15 years ago a camera basically I imagined the sort of AF101, the F3, something that was affordable within reason. And I'd imagine in the next few years they're going to come into the price brackets of there'll be £3,000 or £4,000 versions. I know there's an FS100. But I imagined a camera like this about 15 years ago, and when it happened this year, where filmmakers like myself can get access to 35mm motion picture kind of quality in a package, like that, and what's happened is all of that's kind of come true. The snobbery sort of surrounding film and the expensive film has gradually been whittled away with the advent of high definition cameras, and the brilliant thing for filmmakers like myself, as funding has disappeared quite badly in the cinema and TV world, but the brilliant thing is now, to realise ideas 15 years ago with no money, it did look cheap. There was no real way around it. If you were shooting on high 8, you could do the sort of short films I was doing, but it was hard to craft anything incredible that looked really incredible because you were bound a little bit by your budget. But I think you only have to look on Vimeo and some of these sites at what people are doing with Canon 7Ds, 5Ds, and all of these Zacuto shootouts and all of these things. It's really been a remarkable, and for people that want to actually work on the floor making these things, there's no excuse now not to make something that can't be shown in the cinema, and for very little. And we last night had some 7D footage in This Is England, and obviously the F3 and the Red. And the 7D, to be honest, you could tell it was a digital SLR, but even on that cinema screen last night, it was completely seamless from a raw codec on the Red to 35 megabits a second. And I was astonished, actually, because I was looking for it as well, because I'd always thought, I wonder how this is going to compare on a big screen. And in the rest of the world, This Is England 88 is going to go out in certain countries as a film to be seen in cinemas and will be joined together. So that was massively kind of reassuring for me. And I'm a bit of a Sony fanboy in so much as I was one of those that had a VX2000, because of the low light capabilities and the PD150. And I've shot maybe 100 short films on those two cameras. So I always wait for the Sony camera to come out because I've got used to it and I like the sort of shape of it. But I have tried out every sort of other version of cameras that are out there. And if something's better, I won't just stick with Sony because I've grown up with the Sony cameras. But yeah, the F3 has been remarkable for me because I've been waiting a long time for a 35mm sensor in something pretty much like I used to shoot with when I was 21, making films with my mates. The idea that someone is me now, who's starting out, could pick up something like an FS100 and get that seen, kind of in cinemas all over the world is incredible. Because musicians have always they've always been able to, if you're a musician and you've written a song, you can play a great song on an acoustic guitar and it sounds great, and you can buy an acoustic guitar for 10 quid, and film isn't quite like that. Film is bound a little bit by, having a crew, having a sound man, and to make stuff look great, and that gap's now closing. And for people that, like myself, that come from, I'm from a pretty, normal working class kind of town, and it was a very unavailable thing to me, 35mm, 60mm technology, and now, with iPhones, all of those kind of things, that gap's closed enormously. And so I just wanted, to come here today really just to sort of obviously share my experience with you of where I was at with the Sony F3, what I'm about to do with it, and just if anyone wants to ask me any questions about anything to do with the current stuff or my old work or anything, then I wanted to sort of open it to the floor, really. So you can ask me whatever you like. I was up late last night drinking, so my producer's disappeared. He didn't go back to his hotel room, so he's vanished off the face of the earth. But I'm here, so if you want to ask me any questions, obviously it's an open floor and feel free to do so.